Hey guys, this is Wolf Atlas here, bringing you another MR showcase video for Warrior Divisions. Today's video is gonna feature Tyytas. But before I begin, I want to give a shout out to my friends who not only encouraged me to do this video as a series, but also helped out in both critiquing and offering advice for future videos to try to make this as good as possible. So I want to give a shout out to Kelvin, who has his own YouTube channel, which I'll link below. He offered a lot of critique and some advice because he does this himself with his videos. I also want to give a shout out to both Darin and Antonio, who play the game with me as well. They don't have their own YouTube channels, but they were able to offer their spin on it and their suggestions. So I hope that I could take some of these suggestions, put into video, and make it work. Still working on it, of course. And then finally, before I begin, I want to give a shout out to Cabbage and Maechin, both Japanese players who I do watch on a regular. Cabbage is a YouTuber who's been playing the Japanese version of the game since it came out, and does a lot of these review videos and showcase videos, which I do appreciate watching, and I do appreciate what he does. And Maechin is also a Japanese player who I grew the inspiration the most, because he does feature MR or lower rare units and makes them work. And there are players in the community who don't feel MR units are worth it, but this game does a really good job in making the MR units usable. Makes you want to level them up with selection quests and class matches, stuff like that. They have a place in this game, so my goal is to try to make them more up there up front, try to showcase them, see what they're worth, and help the community learn about them a little bit more. So with that out the way, let's look at Tyytas and what EX upgrades that he got. Before that, let me just run down real quick what Tyytas is. Tyytas is an MR cost 60 unit of the Dark attribute. His main job is Paladin, while he has a sub job of Red Mage and Viking. With that in mind, what separates Tyytas from other tanks is his stats, which I'll show real quick. This is with his EX upgrades. Tyytas specializes in both piercing and missile resistance tanking. And his stats, his stats without any assistance through buffs, upgrades, equipment, cards, whatever, sits like this, with 30% in piercing and 40% in missile resistance. And that sets him apart from other tanks, because not a lot of tanks have those resistance. But the downside is Tyytas has negative resistance in both slash and magic. Two attack types that are very common in the PvP world of Warrior Division. So it makes Tyytas less likely to be used against those comps. And unless the meta shifts into a comp that's heavily pierce or missile, there are better options for tanks to be used. Now, I know that sounds like I'm selling him short. However, we are currently in a pierce type meta right now, since they've released a couple of pierce units recently that are making waves. Two of them are Obreon, who's a cost 100 unit, and Aranea, who just came out in this week's current event for Final Fantasy 15, which is a month-long event. And both those units are very popular currently in the meta, so this is the perfect time to check out Tyytas to see what he can do. So let's look at his kit a little bit to see what kind of moves Tyytas gains. As a paladin, he has access to stuff like Blade Badge, which can stun an enemy for 1 turn. He has Taunting Blade, which is found on his sub-paladin job, which allows him to generate hate and have enemies attack him. And then he has access to Saintly Cross, which will do damage to enemies around him, which is great because if his goal is to attract enemies, they're gonna surround him to do damage. And although this is a high AP cost, it can do some damage and help your DPS finish off those enemies. He also has access to Saintly Heal. However, Saintly Healing is a move that's tied to the magic stat, which is partially why he has Red Mage as his sub job, because he has a little bit of a magic stat. However, I wouldn't be using his Red Mage as a sub job. Although he does have access to some utilities such as Sleep and Cura, and then also Resistance Break to help DPS do some damage. However, I wouldn't be using that Red Mage for that. His Viking sub job makes it so that he can do some attack damage. He has access to Launch, which will have a higher chance of doing critical hits. And he has Drain Cycle, which is great because if he's surrounded by enemies, he could do this and gain some HP back. This would probably be a better move than Saintly Cross in my opinion. But I also don't recommend having Viking as a sub job unless you're doing PvE content. Oh, I did forget. He has access to Immortal Spirit, which is a great paladin move to have. You always want to have this on in auto battle because the AI will use his first turn and it will help him survive fatal damage, leaving him at just 1 HP. So this is a really good move. So EXing Tyytas gets you an upgrade to his Holy Knight's protection, which becomes Holy Knight's Bastion. Not only does it raises his HP and defense, but now he gains the more pierce and missile resistance, which I showed you earlier. His base starts at 20 pierce and 30 missile. This is the support ability that puts it up to 30 for pierce and 40 for missile. So just having this alone really helps him out. Combined with cards, he can reach really high stats with little effort. And then his Saintly Wall gets upgraded to Saintly Fortress, which adds a hate generation to the move and raises his pierce resistance for 3 turns. And he can use it. He can stack it up twice if he uses it back to back. The AI is not going to use it back to back. However, this is still a really good move to have because this means that he's not relying on his Taunting Blade to generate hate. What made Tyytas very hard to use at level 99, not as hard as other tanks, but it still falls along the same lines, is that he needs to use his Taunting Blade skill in order to generate hate. Another thing that sets Tyytas apart from other paladins is that he can actually do his Taunting Blade ability on the first turn. If you for two reasons. First, his master ability. His master ability not only gives him more pierce and missile resistance, but also lowers his AP consumption by 25%. So that alone reduces the cost for Taunting Blade by a certain amount. So Taunting Blade normally, if I could click on it, normally costs 44%. I'm sorry, 44 AP, not 44%. Reduce that by 25%. Now it costs about, let's see if I, and now it costs 36. There you go. Yeah, 25% of 44 is 36. So now it will cost 36 AP to use. Not only that, he has a support ability thanks to his red job submage. Thanks to his sub job red mage, raise initial AP. If you have this equipped along with his master ability, he will do Taunting Blade first turn. But thanks to his EX upgrade, you no longer have to rely on having that support ability on, and you can use that slot to use for one of his other support abilities. Since I'm here with the support abilities, let's just go through them real quick. So he has access to Viking Lord, which helps bring his HP and attack up. I mentioned Holy Knight's Bastions before, but it also helps with his HP. So he could gain high HP with the right set of gear. His other support abilities, Mage's Protection, which helps with his weakness towards magic a bit, and Unyielding Protection, which offers him even more missile resistance. In my personal experience playing with Tyytas, I say using both his HP support moves will help out a lot. Combined with cards and dark and other units that give dark units more HP, he can reach 10,000 HP pretty easily. His reaction ability, Magic Reflex, is the one you want to use because he has the weakness to magic. At the very least, you have a slight chance of dodging magic attacks. So I will have this on if for some reason I'm facing at least one magic user. His other ability, Paladin's Guard, can also help, but it only reduces physical attack. It doesn't go after magic attacks. So if he had Sword Guard, which is I believe is a warrior ability or a knight ability, correct me if I'm wrong, that reduces all damage. That would have been better for Tyytas. But because this is only for physical damage and he already has good physical defense and defense on top of that, I would use this more in PvE content than PvP. And I would just go with Magic Reflex just in case you run into a magic team and you want to take that chance. Fighting Spirit, I don't recommend because it will have a chance of inflicting Berserk, and you don't want your tank on Berserk mode at all. So there's that. His 25 level skill is Paralyzing Slash, which does medium damage and has a chance of paralyzing the opponent for 3 turns. In my honest opinion, I don't think if you decide to EX Tyytas, I do not recommend going for this move. Not right now. I do say if you're planning on EXing Tyytas, do go up to level 25 because you want to unlock his max HP node and HP plus 40 because you want to give him as much HP as possible. But I would save the Blossom for this for a rainy day. There is in Japan an Esper called Chaos Odin that has nodes that I believe increases status effect chances. I'm not sure his specific status or in general. I have to look that up. But if there's gonna be more stuff like that in the future, then this might be something you want to consider. But through playtesting and playing around with Tyytas, I don't think this is worth it. You're worth the one blossom right now. Alright, let's get into some arena battles. As you're gonna see up on the screen, this is gonna be the team comp for this showcase today. Tyytas, Aerith, and Halloween Leela. And you can see his pierce resistance is at least 75%. I originally wanted to do a team of Tyytas, Shell, and Howlet because they're all siblings and it feels natural to have them together. But I don't have Shell or Howlet ready as of right now. Maybe in the future I will showcase them. So stand-in is Aerith, who's the Time Mage, just like Shell is. And Halloween Leela is geared to be an attacker in this showcase. She will not be doing any healing whatsoever, similar to how Howlet's set up. Only difference is Howlet's more slash based, Halloween Leela is not. But as you can see here, Obreon opens with his limit break, and Tyytas takes it pretty well without even buffing up his defenses whatsoever. He didn't use Saintly Wall, Saintly Fortress, and he didn't use Sentinel. So he took the attack pretty well, but he did get some pierce resistance reduction from that limit break, so the next attack is going to hit him a little bit harder. Now he's in range to do Taunting Blade, so he does that to generate more hit. Since this map is small, I had Tyytas hold the Producer's Ribbon to help to reduce his movement by 1 for 3 turns. This way it helps him set up some buffs before reaching the enemy. If I didn't have that on, then he's more likely to do Taunting Spell on the first turn. As you can see here, Louelle shot Magic Orb to him and he wasn't able to take it that well. That's why I said before that he's not able to take Magic well. Even if you try to build for it, he won't take it. But he could have reflexed it, he just didn't. So now it's up to Aerith and Halloween Leela to clean things up. And now it's just 2 versus 1. Another thing about this map is that it kind of divides the team up. We have 2 versus 2 on one side and 1 versus 1 on the other side. So if Halloween Leela can't handle her opponent, then we might get in trouble because Aerith's not set up to be an attacker, but she will attack if she has nothing else to do. So right now is Aerith and Halloween Leela is doing their thing against Louelle, and Louelle goes down. So we win that one, and wasn't bad for a first display. Next up we have Obreon, Jayden, and Noctis. In terms of gearing Tyytas, I have him with the Holy Knight shoulder plates, but any gear that gives missile or pierce resistance is a good idea. So the 2 examples I showed there, Elf's Cloak and Defense Bracers, are good items for him to have. So it really depends on what you're trying to go up against. If you're trying to go against more pierce, then you want to gear him with more pierce stuff. If you're trying to go against missile, then use missile and change one of his supports to unyielding protection for your more missile resistance. So now this battle, Jayden opened up with his long range attack because he's always going to open up with a long range attack, especially on a small map. But Halloween Leela was able to take it. Now we have our hate generated with thanks to Taunting Blade here, and Halloween Leela was able to take down Jayden. So now it's just Noctis and Obreon versus Tyytas. Tyytas was able to take the slash attack from Noctis here. So now this is where Aerith shines as a healer supporter because her limit break not only heals but also gives more defense, which is perfect for Tyytas. Now that he's going to be able to take Noctis slash attacks a bit more despite being weak to slash. So as you see here, he did another warping strike. Unfortunately, it did break my defense, so kind of canceled out the defense boost that I gained. However, Tyytas is not in range for a heal, so Aerith decided to go on an offensive. So here, Tyytas takes down Obreon, and now we see Aerith doing her other heal, which ups Spirit. So if there was magic attackers here, then that Spirit will kind of help, but like I said, Tyytas is not that great against magic units. Aerith decides to finish things off, and that ends that. A better display of his tankiness. Alright, the final match is going to be Aranea, Noctis, and Obreon. In terms of cards for Tyytas, I have the Irresistible Darkness on him, which helps with his Pierce resistance. But I also recommend Omega's card. Omega's card has HP up on top of magic resistance, so that helps mitigates his negativity to magic attacks. And because it has a bestow ability of more HP, I highly recommend that card as well. Any other cards would be anything that will help his defenses, his pierce resistance, or missile resistance. And in terms of espers, I have him on Golem. Again, any espers that have piercing or missiles will do. Golem's great because he has both pierce resistant and defense up, which is perfect for Tyytas. And Omega is another decent esper for him. And one other esper I do recommend is Siren, because it can help with with a slash build. But if you're gonna do a slash build for a tank, let it not be Tyytas, let it be a different tank. Now, as for this battle, as you can see, Noctis did some damage to Tyytas here, and he goes down. So now we're just left with Obreon and Aranea. So now Tyytas does his Sentinel over here, and Aerith's gonna do her haste to give him some more speed. Oberon's gonna take a hit from Halloween Leela, and this is where we're gonna see how much damage Aranea is gonna do to level 120 Tyytas. Let's see how much this does. Not much, and he had the Sentinel up, so I can only imagine how much it would have been without Sentinel. But now Oberon's gonna come in to do his limit break as well, and let's see how much damage this does. A bit more, but he still stands. So now the team's gonna do what the team does best, and that's attack. Even though Aerith should be healing, but she decides to attack. Aranea has re-raise, so she's gonna raise herself, but Tyytas is gonna go for an attack. This is where he does paralyzing slash. Knocks out Aranea. Did get the paralyzation, but it didn't matter. Alright, so my final thoughts on Tyytas. Honestly, he's fun. I like using him, but I don't recommend him to everyone. Especially if you're strapped on Blossoms and you have other tanks that you could use. So you have Whisper, who has similar stats and can also be built pretty easy. I believe she's in one of the shops, metal shops, you could get her that way without having to spend much viz. And she might be a better candidate as a dark tank than Tyytas is. And then on top of that, you also have tanks like King Mont and Engelbert, who are in the pool, who are also great at being physical tank. So I can't recommend Tyytas to everyone. I can say that if you're a fan of Tyytas and his family, then you'll have a lot of fun using him. And I will say, if you do plan on EXing Tyytas, don't go after his job 25 skill. Just take him to EX job 25. Go for the stats, but don't go for, save that one blossom for a rainy day. That's my verdict. So he's fun. I like him. He can take the hits. He's not a bad EX. They improved on what his strengths are, but they didn't do anything to improve on his weaknesses at all. And those weaknesses are really huge when it comes to tanking in general, and especially if the meta is constantly with slashers and magic users. So overall, he's fun. A fun unit. I'm glad I EX'd him, and I'm glad I was able to show him off. If you enjoyed this video, please comment and let me know. I'm still improving on this sort of content, and as time goes on, I'll keep improving. But I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you guys next time. Laters.